Happy Monday to you, and thank you very much for being with us and checking in on what we have to say about the Braves. I'm Bill Shanks from Sports Radio 93.1 WXKO in Macon, 93.1 also in Rochelle, Osceola, and Fitzgerald, 98.3 in South Central Georgia and all over the world on thesuperstations.com. We'll have our show today, of course, at 3 o'clock this afternoon, at 3 o'clock Eastern time. We hope you'll join us where we will talk more about the Atlanta Braves, but a few thoughts here as we get ready for Monday's home run derby. And of course, we wish Ronald Acuna Jr. well and hope he does very, very well tonight in the home run derby. The Braves are 2.5 out of first place. If you think about where they were last year at the All-Star break, well, they're in a better spot now, which is hard to believe considering they were 10.5 back on June the 1st, but they were 4.5 back a year ago at 44 and 45. They were unbelievably a game under 500 and now sit at 18 games over 500. And again, it's hard to believe considering the fact they were so bad the first 2 months of the season, but they have been on a roll, of course, since June 1st. They are 33 and 11 since that date. They are also 12 and 5 in the month of July and continue to play very good ball, winning the series over the weekend against the Washington Nationals, winning 3 of 4. And so now they'll have a couple of days off, at least the majority of the team will, while they'll watch their teammates who go to Los Angeles to participate in the All-Star game. The Braves continue to just get good pitching. I know they didn't have a great performance on Sunday from Spencer Strider, but for the most part, this pitching has been great since June 1st. The rotation 22 and 6, with an ERA of 3.36 in 44 games. And in July, the rotation 9 and 3 with an ERA of 2.66. So starting pitching has been there. The bullpen in July, 3.13 ERA, while we've seen great performances, of course, since June 1st as well. It's been remarkable what's happened to this team and how they have turned it around. And of course, you point to the offense, I think, to see how the offense has played so well and performed just at a high level. You look at the numbers from the start of June. Dansby Swanson, 321 batting average. Austin Riley, 318 batting average. Michael Harris, 294. Travis d'Arnaud, 276. The production has been unbelievable, with Riley hitting 15 home runs since June the 1st. Duvall, 10 home runs since June the 1st. And Olsen, 11 home runs. Dansby, 9. It's just been incredible how this team has turned it around. And of course, we're all wondering how it's going to go here in the second part of the season. They still have a good number of games left, of course, 68, with 12 of those 68 being against the New York Mets. So we know that a lot of these games against the Mets will determine the National League East. I want to say something here, and I know it's going to sound like I'm perhaps setting the table for the Braves to not win the division. I'm not. The goal remains for this team to win the National League Eastern Division. They've won it 4 years in a row. They have really controlled this division for the last 4 years. They won the World Series last year, so everybody's got to beat the Braves. And the Mets did that 2-3 last week, so you got to give them credit. But, the more I think about how these 68 games in the last part of the season are going to play out, I do not think we need to be crushed or upset at all if the Braves are simply the top wild card spot. That's going to be okay if they do that. It really will. I mean, in that situation, the Braves would, if the season ended today, would host the San Diego Padres for a 3-game series in Atlanta. And you know what? If they couldn't beat San Diego 2-3 in a series in Atlanta, they don't deserve to go to the next round. So that's what the first round is going to be like now. And if the Braves are not able to catch the Mets and hold off, which I think they will, I think the Braves are going to catch the Mets. And I don't know if they're going to win it. I think the Braves are going to catch the Mets. And I think, again, it's going to come down to those 12 games. And there's no question over the next 2.5 weeks, the rosters could change a little bit. There's no question about that. These are two very good teams, the Braves, the Mets, but they still could have some reinforcements, complementary players, whatever you want to say, join these rosters by August the 2nd. So there's a lot still to play out. I mean, think about this time last year, July 18th, we were getting ready for Alex Anthopoulos to make 6 trades between the end of the All-Star break and the trade deadline, and that roster and that team and that season changed dramatically for the rest of the year, all the way to November the 2nd. So we don't know what's going to happen for the rest of the year. We've got a lot to see. There's a lot of questions that remain on this team. And they're good questions. They're not necessarily bad questions. They're not necessarily doom and gloom whatsoever, but questions we have to have answers to. For example, Kyle Wright, he now has had a very good half season. He should be in Los Angeles for the All-Star game. 11-4, 2.95 ERA in his first 18 games of the season. Kyle has 110 innings pitched so far this year. He's never pitched above 144 innings in his career. He had 144 innings in 2018 and then 143.1 innings in 2021. So how will he hold up if he gets to 180? Same with Ian Anderson. Ian Anderson obviously is on pace for a complete season, unlike last year when he had to sit out for a while. He's got 18 starts. So as Ian Anderson gets above 100 innings into 120 into 140, how is he going to go? And I think those two questions kind of turn me back to the possibility of Alex Anthopoulos at least getting one starting pitching arm in the month of July before the trade deadline. And I'm not saying they're going to get Luis Castillo, but they may get Tyler Mahle, and that might not be a bad thing. Castillo would be better, don't get me wrong, but maybe Mahle's going to be needed to help have some of those innings, eat some of those innings up here in the second part of the season. But that's one question I think that he's got to be wondering about. We know this lineup has been very solid. I think we've seen William Contreras slow down a little bit, and that's to be expected. We know that Travis d'Arnaud has played a lot, but they are able to kind of balance out the work between Contreras and d'Arnaud behind home plate, which is a good thing. Can second base be okay until Ozzie Albies gets back in September? That's a question I have, and I think Cano is done okay. Nothing great, but okay so far. And of course, Arcia has been really serviceable. And so, I mean, I think that's a question mark. Can Dansby keep this up? Right. That's something we're all wondering about. Riley as well. Can he keep it up? So there's just questions that a team normally asks at this point of the season at the halfway point or midway point or whatever you want to call it. Not halfway. They're already past the halfway point by 13 games. That can be points of discussion leading into the post All-Star break game. So I feel good about this team's chances. I know they're going to have to be hot at the right time, just like they were last year. Do they have the ability to do that? Oh, yeah. There's no question about that. They have the ability to be the hottest team in baseball at the right time. So I'm anxious to see if they can do that as they get closer to October. But I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they have a great chance to win the division. And if not, it's no end of the world. They just have to win a few more games. And I think they can do that, especially if they have that first series at home. So the only thing the Braves need to do is continue their daily mantra, win the series. I know that may sound simplistic, but I'm telling you, I would have loved to see them sweep the Nationals. The Nationals are awful. They won the series. The Braves won the series. How can we complain about that? The Mets played an awful team and the Cubs over the weekend. Awful. I mean, the Cubs could have won both of those games on Saturday. They were just not very good. So the Mets won 3 or 4. They got to feel good about that. They won the series. You got to win the series. You got to keep on winning the series. When the Braves play those series against the Mets, they need to win them. They need to win them. How much better would we feel if they'd won the Wednesday game last week against New York? I mean, we could talk about the fact, they lost 2 or 3, but it came down to that one game and the Braves lost it. So they've got to win series against New York. There's no doubt about that. 12 out of 68 is a pretty good percentage of the games left. I mean, that's 18% of the games remaining on the schedule against one team that you're chasing. That's a great opportunity to catch them, but you just got to win the series. If you win the series and they have 4 series left, you're going to gain 4 games on them. Well, I mean, that kind of puts you in first place if you can do that. So that continues to be the most important thing. to see what Alex Anthopoulos does at the trade deadline and to see how this roster shakes out for the last couple of months of the season. But I feel good about it. Can't wait to see the home run derby tonight with Ronald Acuna Jr. Can't wait to see the guys who are going to be on the all-star team on Tuesday. That's going to be a great thing, and we're looking forward to that. As far as the draft is concerned, well, look, I have been saying for 22 years, ever since the 2000 draft, when I got really crazy into the draft and the minor leagues, everything, and we did a TV show with the Braves on the minor league system, draft pitching, and that comes from Roy Clark and Paul Snyder, who really taught me a lot about player development and pitching and building a roster, building an organization, pitching. And the Braves did that, surprisingly, with 3 of the 4 picks last night being high school pitchers. And I love it. I'm excited to see Owen Murphy and J.R. Ritchie, Cole Phillips. I'm really excited about that. And Blake Burkhalter, they think he's going to be a starter. They think they're going to try him out first as a starting pitcher. So I love what they've done so far. And to be honest with you, I hope they'll keep going. I mean, I just think you can never have too many pitchers. Pitching is what moves the needle. Pitching is what can allow you to make trades. Pitching is what makes your organization strong. The Braves don't need a whole lot of position play. I hope they never. I hope they don't have to have a first baseman in the next 7 years. I don't think they're going to have a second baseman in the next 6 years, 5 years. I don't think they're going to need I hope they don't need a third baseman in the next decade. I'd like him up for a decade. If they re-sign Dansby, they won't need a shortstop for a long time. Catcher, I mean, Darno's signed through next year and an option for 2024, and Contreras is very young, so they always need catching, but you know what I mean. They don't need an immediate need. Outfield, 2 of the 3 spots are young players with Acuna and Harris, and then the other one is Rosario, who's under contract for next year. So pitching is always the key, and I love what they've done. I love the projection for Owen Murphy and J.R. Ritchie. They're interesting players. I love getting Tommy John patients. I do. I mean, I think like AJ Minter, Spencer Strider, when you get a Tommy John pitcher, he's had what you're worried about. Let him get better. Not that they all come back, but he's had what you worry about. So I love that pick. Cole Phillips there in the 2nd round. And, we'll see what happens today, rounds 3 through 10, and hopefully they can get some more pitchers and more good deals, considering the fact that, I would think Murphy's a little under slot. Richie's probably a little over slot. Phillips a little over slot, and Burkhalter probably way under slot, which should still give them some flexibility going into the 2nd day of the draft. All right, listen to us 3:00 Eastern time on thesuperstations.com, 93.1 FM in Macon and Warner Robins, Osceola, Rochelle, Fitzgerald, near Tifton, also 98.3 in Perry, Hawkinsville, Cochran, Americus, everywhere in between. We're on the air, plus online at thesuperstations.com, thesuperstations.com. Have a great Monday.